Good to go?
All right, it's 10:06, February 22nd. I'd like to call this meeting to order. If you could please stand and pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Good morning, everybody. We'll run through the agenda real quick. We have the adoption of the agenda. We'll restate them at this time. Public input on non-agenda items. If you choose to do so as a member of the public, please limit that to 3 minutes or less. Consent agenda, we have 2 items. Approval of minutes from January 25, 2023, and the check approvals for the numbers as listed. Unfinished business, we have none. Under new business, item A, retention of Manson, Bowles, Donaldson, and Tanner. We'll discuss and get more information on that. We'll get a fiscal year health update that's done, I'm guessing, by the chief and our finance director. And Chief Worth will go over the assistance to firefighter grant, fire chief remarks, attorney report, which I don't believe we have one, commissioner's remarks, and then we'll adjourn as we complete. Are there any changes to the agenda as noted? None? Do we have a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay, consent agenda. We've had a chance to look. Do we have a motion to approve the minutes and checks as dispersed?
So moved.
A second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 And seeing no public, I'm assuming we have no public input, and I apologize for skipping over that. We'll get right down to new business. Chief.
Thank you, Mr. Board Chair. Good morning, Commissioners, and to any community that is out there watching us on our live stream. The first new business item we have today that I have to introduce and discuss with you is new business item number 8A, the retention of Manson, Bowles, Donaldson, and Tanner. This law group is a law group and a special district lobbying group that works through our partners with the Florida Association of Special Districts. They specifically do work for that statewide group representing special districts and the needs of special districts, but they also are available for retention for individual districts with unique needs. As we all know, and we've all experienced, there's a lot of statewide legislation that is being passed in Tallahassee post-Hurricane Ian. A lot of that legislation provides fiscal support and recapturing of tax monies. However, what the trend has been since Hurricane Ian is most of these funds are being directed towards counties, cities, and other types of municipalities, and special districts are, for whatever reason, not being adequately represented. So for our purposes, we have retained this law group. Laura Donaldson is our primary lobbyist to ensure that the district has consistent representation in Tallahassee. We've been very lucky that our local representatives, Representative Adam Bontana is absolutely wonderful, has been in constant communication with the district, as well as our Senator Martin, the Senate President. We're actually going to be a recipient on the 24th of a special Senate President award. What's the name of the award, Colleen? Do you remember?
Pride of Florida.
Pride of Florida Award. We're going to be recognized on the 24th for the work the district has done. But having a consistent person to help tell our story in Tallahassee is going to be critical to ensure whatever funds the legislation as a whole and the governor's office as a whole makes available, that our district's interests are consistently and constantly in their forefront of their minds, and they don't forget about the Fort Myers Beach Fire Control District. Within 24 hours of retention of this firm, they're already packing my schedule. As I told you in March, I will not be running the meeting. District Chief Worth will be running that meeting. They're already scheduling me and planning me for that entire week to get to key individuals in the legislation to speak with, to tell our story, to keep our message and our services consistently in the forefront of their minds. We're not the only district that employs these services. Typically, we have adequate representation through FASDA on 99% of issues that impact a special district or an independent fire control district. But we're in very unique times, and we want to ensure that every available fund, grant opportunity is made available to the district and to our constituency. So with that, I'd like to open up any questions you guys might have of me.
Commissioner Fleming, do you have anything?
No, he was breaking up, but I got most of it.
Okay. No?
No questions, other than I comment that I think it's a great idea to have some additional help in this matter. And anything very quickly, we like to be represented.
And I would just agree with what Jim just said.
I agree as well. The one question, Chief, is cost again, if you could remind us.
This will be $15,000 is the cost for this legislative year, and already the work on some appropriation requests that are being sponsored by Representative Montana, which his office has been phenomenal, and our Senator Martin. Those appropriation requests and the work that Laura and her team have helped us to get those appropriation requests in, it's already paying back dividends just there. And the face time with these key elected individuals is going to pay us back.
I think it's a necessary task and an assignment that these folks are filling for us. To have somebody that advocates for us directly is priceless. I mean, it really, I was a little bit surprised that the price was affordable as it was.
Yes.
And I thank them for being affordable for us. But yeah, I really see a lot of benefits coming from this and support it wholeheartedly.
And in terms of affordability, Commissioner, what I can also tell you is they're a preferred partner through FASDA, so that helps the pricing. If they weren't a preferred partner and we couldn't capitalize on that partnership, we would probably be looking at $50,000 to $75,000 for these services. So it is extremely affordable. They do specifically work with small government and independent districts like ourselves. So that drives the cost point to be affordable for us.
Awesome. Will they be presenting at some point down the road in the summertime over?
Right now, over break, I plan to have Laura come down and introduce herself. I put some information in your packet about her firm and about her personally. Some of the senior staff and I have already met with Laura. I have a working relationship with Laura over the last several years. Very impressive lady, knows her business, cut her teeth in the legislators, walking the halls of Tallahassee. So she's very skilled and very accomplished, not only as an attorney, but as a person to represent our needs.
Awesome. Thank you. Any other comments? Public input? Seeing none. We go to new business item B, the current fiscal health of the district.
All right, Commissioners. So as you guys are well aware of, usually in March we do a mid-year budget review. The members of the senior staff and I have been carefully watching what the impacts of Hurricane Ian are going to have on the fiscal health of the district. Part of the values of the district that we all agree are important is security and stability and insurance of effective services to the community. And those services and that security and stability to our district members all are rooted in dollars and cents and the fiscal health of the organization. So Starting 3 weeks after landfall, we were meeting with Matt Caldwell, our property appraiser here in Lee County, and trying to get our handle of what our fiscal outlook's going to be. So I didn't want to wait till March, our March meeting, to do a mid-year budget review. I wanted to have this, we have a relatively light agenda this month, and I wanted to have some good discussions and give you guys not only where we're at, but what we're looking at as far as internal staff projections. We have okay data that we're working on. Everyone is overloaded, all the taxation offices with tax rebates, calculations, property devaluations. The concept of government light in staff positions is really causing a lot of backlog of work. So we won't have good soft numbers to work at to really dig into understanding the economic impact till at least middle of May or June 1st, which is when we need to get those soft numbers. But Jane and I, along with Colleen, Jennifer, Scott, we wanted to get the best data we could get our hands on so we could start doing our own internal projections. So it may be better, it may be worse, but at least we're putting together plans so the district is being, once again, proactive in what the outlook would be. So without that, we'll go ahead and get started. So for the members of our community that may have missed our budget presentations, just want to give a recap of the district's budget and how it works. As an independent taxing district, as an independent fire district, the district as a whole provides the third or fourth most expensive municipal service, and we're limited to those services that we can provide by our enabling legislation, as all of you know. For our district, that is fire code enforcement, fire response, emergency medical services, risk reduction, public education, and code enforcement. Because we are a limited form of government, the legislation limits our available revenue streams to property taxes or user fees. There's also a mechanism to do a flat non-ad valorem tax assessment, which the district has never elected to impose or take the referendum to get the voters' will on that. That is very different than a municipal form of government, such as a city or the town or the county, which the legislation gives them a vast array of revenue streams. So the slide to the left shows that the district, for funding its operation, gets about 92.7% of its revenue or operating budget from ad valorem taxes, then user fees, then sales of any capitalized assets. Impact fees only represent 0.001% of our budget because pre-Ian, we were a built-out community. Any increases in our budget came strictly from increasing a property valuation district-wide. And it's important for anybody who's listening at home to realize that the district does not just encompass the town of Fort Myers Beach. We actually protect about 3.1 miles of unincorporated Lee County all the way to Pine Ridge Road. So for any of our new residents or our visitors or our part-time visitors that are watching us at home, they need to understand the fire district encompasses the town and is larger than the town. So our constituency and our tax base is a little bit larger than the town. From there, from all those sources of revenue, all of those sources of revenue go into the district's general fund. So to help with that understanding, think of that as the main bank account of the district. And from there, that general fund is subdivided into a savings account, which is the district's reserves, which we projected in this fiscal year pre-Ian to be at about $12 million. And then the operating budget, think of that as your checkings account, where you pay the bills at. That sustains operations for another fiscal year, and that was sitting at $16.9 million. To understand the budget process consists of our anticipated revenues, which is ad valorem, inspection fees, ambulance transport fees, and miscellaneous sources of income such as interest, grants, donations, or sales of any capitalized assets that have reached useful life. Any funds carried forward from the previous budget year are anticipated expenses, are anticipated reserves. Jane takes all of that data and she puts out what our preliminary millage rate would be to sustain district operations for another fiscal year, and that's what we bring before you for consideration for adoption every year in our budget process. Our budget process starts in January, and it culminates in September when the board has its final budget hearing and adoption of the budget. Some key points: in July is when we do our preliminary budget presentation, and the board sets the tentative trim rate for the district, which goes out and notifies all the district's residents and property owners of what the tentative trim rate is. Once that tentative trim rate is set, it can't go higher. It can only be lowered by the board based on your will and based on the data that you're provided. I'll pause there for a moment. A lot of information was thrown at you guys. Is there any questions? No? So our district reserves pre-Ian, we had our capital and bridge reserve. That's where the district does a very good job at forecasting our capital and infrastructure needs. We talked about how it's built on a devaluation model, a depreciation model. We've talked about that extensively several times. And then our bridge. This is also the reserve where we pull funds out of from the end of the fiscal year to when we start getting new tax disbursements in the new budget year. We need an operating bridge, and this is the reserve the board has directed us to pull from to get us through that period of time from where the fiscal year ends to when we start getting new tax disbursements. Then we have our disaster reserve, which is $1.2 million, which is our anticipated cost of a 30 days all hands out operation. A millage sustainment fund, which was birthed out of the Great Recession to help the board, should the board choose to stabilize the millage rate, should we see a massive property devaluation. We have a small reserve, a firefighter presumptive illness reserve of $50,000. And then in this year, we recognized that we needed to have a funding plan for construction of Station 31, and we established a new reserve, and we anticipated that being $5.98 million, which takes us to our total savings account number of $12 million. We had anticipated and projected several capital and infrastructure projects, which totaled about $1.3, almost $1.4 million in this fiscal year, with everything from purchasing the 2 new rescues, 2 new ambulances that are, when are we looking at taking delivery of those, Scott?
April or May.
April or May, which are excited. We were looking at purchasing another reserve rescue, so we had 3 quality rescues, and we had plenty of redundancy in our system should we have a mechanical issue, for about $360,000, building improvements of $167,000. As you can see, I have it listed out. That all was $1.38 million. So when we get into our post-Ian assessment of this fiscal year, at the time of budget adoption is what's on the left-hand side. We anticipated our general bank account to be at $28 million, our savings accounts to be at $12 million, and our operating budget at $16.9 million. Right now, where we stand is our general bank account is sitting at $22 million, representing about a $6 million loss. We've been lagging a little bit behind on tax disbursements from the county and people paying their tax bills. Our savings accounts, due to the mitigation action, emergency response, and restoration of district facilities, are now down to $5.1 million from our $12 million of anticipated savings. And our operating budget is still sitting at $16.9 million because that's what we need to run the organization. Some of the driving factors behind these changes: again, emergency mitigation and response, repairs and restoration for district services. And in case you guys ever get asked by any of your voters out there in the community, how much money does it take to run the district every month, that figure is $1.1 million. To keep the trucks on the road, to keep prompt 911 service, the figure is $1.1 million. Mitigation and preparedness, it's hard to believe, but we are only 4 months away from hurricane season again. So we still have elevators that are out of service, our infrastructure is still weakened, we have limited contractors, limited supplies, limited people to do the work. So we still have a lot of mitigation and preparedness work to do for the upcoming hurricane season. Now, the shining silver lining in all this is a lot of this work is FEMA reimbursement eligible. However, what we are learning, and what we are learning from communities, small communities like Mexico Beach, those reimbursements do not happen overnight. A lot of those reimbursements require the district to make the outlay and apply for the reimbursements, and it doesn't happen overnight. In some cases, it can take years to get that money back to the district. So it's not a quick process. That's why the legislative lobbying and getting direct support from the state is going to be so critical, because they are much quicker than the federal government. So some external considerations that we as your senior staff are looking at is the legislative bill that recently passed, 2022-4A, which provided Hurricane Ian tax relief and tax rebates. We're looking at a potential property devaluation in the coming fiscal year 23-24 of anywhere from 20 to 30%. So total property valuation in the district last year was $5 billion, just a little over $5 billion. We're looking at 20 to 30%. Now, thank the powers to be that we're in a beachside community, because the property valuation in our community, there is an inherent value to the land, not the improvements that are built upon the land. If this would have been another area of Lee County, that property devaluation could be staggering. You could be looking at a 60 to 70% devaluation. So it's still going to be, there's still a potential devaluation, but it's not as profound as it could be. That's my message to you. We also have to consider that more and more, day after day, we have indications that we are aggressively moving towards a national recession, which is going to impact everybody, not just Florida, not just us, but everybody. So we have to keep that in mind. And there's been a dramatic escalation in the cost of goods and services, contractor services. You all are experiencing it as you restore your personal homes and properties.
Ron?
Yes.
May I ask a question? The tax relief and rebates, we, as a owner, they're offering a form we have to send in to get a tax rebate.
Yes.
What does that affect, how does that affect the amount of money ad valorem that comes into us?
That is an excellent question. So we just, the Island Fire Chiefs, Jane and myself, last month just had a meeting with the tax collector's office and their decision makers, because as typical, state passes something, it's up to the local authorities and how it's going to be enforced. So in order to qualify for the tax rebate, the property owner has to pay their property tax bill that they received in September. Once you pay that, you apply to the property appraisers for tax relief under this Hurricane Ian tax relief bill. If you lost your property or you lost use of your property due to Hurricane Ian, you qualify for the first quarter of the new fiscal year, a tax rebate for September, October, November, and December. How that's going to impact us is every taxing authority on the taxing bill is responsible to provide that rebate back to the county. So we are anticipating at least one more tax disbursement. However many tax rebates are approved, that will be removed from our future tax disbursements. If those tax disbursements equate more than what our tax disbursement is going to be, we won't get a tax disbursement. If they continue to trickle in until next July, then moving into the next fiscal year, those tax rebates will come out of next fiscal year's tax disbursements until the total is satisfied. So on top of property devaluation, we also have to account for potential tax rebates that the district will lose funds at as they're processed and accepted. Now, there's several unknown factors. that we're still trying to figure out. So one, condominiums. Every single condo unit is an individual taxable property. So is it every individual unit? That question still hasn't been fully answered yet. My guess is yes, every individual, but I haven't got the official word on that yet, or how that's going to work for individual properties. I can tell you district-wide, over 900 properties were destroyed or non-existent, and over 2,500 properties received substantial to severe damage. So this number of tax rebates and people who lost their homes or lost use of their homes, and the people who qualify, can be profound.
So what you're saying, if I save $500 on my tax bill, then someone has to make that up, and it's the local entities.
It's all the taxing
So
authorities.
if I save 10%, then 10% of the taxes I paid to the fire department, or the fire district.
Yes, we,
Lose the 10%.
yes, yes.
And is that coming out, that's coming out of future taxes, not, they're not gonna send me a check?
Yeah.
They're gonna just charge me $500 less?
Right, the district will rebate the county, yes, the county, through our tax reimbursements, so.
Will that happen this year, or you're not, that's what you were saying? not-
We're anticipating one more tax disbursement, so however many tax rebates are accepted by the property appraiser, that amount will come out of our tax disbursement and then roll over into the next fiscal year as because I believe they have till July to apply for their tax rebates. So that will roll over into the next fiscal year. Jane, anything to add?
No, that's correct.
Okay.
Chief, has there been any indication that the state would help support the local districts like ours that are going to be substantially impacted because of our location in this rebate process, which was passed by the legislature for the individuals?
There have been talks, but specifically for our district, now this message is being pushed by Laura very, very heavily. And there is indications that hopefully she has provided me some feedback that there is definitely interest due to the essential nature of our job to provide some mechanism to help offset this impact to districts such as ours. So I want to transition into some of the actions that we are taking to blunt some of the fiscal impacts. The first thing is we just had our discovery meeting with FEMA on a community disaster loan, which based on that preliminary data, that is a loan. Think of it, it's very similar to a home equity loan. We would qualify for up to $5 million for direct operational costs. Jane is working through that process, and it's a very time-consuming process with the reports and data she needs to provide. But that would provide the district with $5 million to augment our operational costs, and it will create another layer of work on our staff because you'll almost have to complete you do have to maintain a separate ledger, so to speak, on how you're spending that money. Now, that money is offered at 3%, is that correct?
Yes.
3%, and you start kind of making payments as you go, but it's typically forgiven with situations like that, but that forgiveness is not guaranteed.
It's based on prime.
It's based on prime. So the second thing we've done is Chief Worth, and under his supervision, Chief Armiger, and you'll hear a little bit more about this from Chief Worth, has applied to the Assistance to Firefighters Grant for our air packs in fiscal year 24-25. Our air packs, which is a substantial capital improvement, are coming due. We want to try to free up money in our reserves. So Chief Worth took the lead, working cooperatively with Local 1826 and the IAFF in Washington, D.C. to submit a grant for some training needs, as well as to get that air pack expenditure funded through the grant. Chief Worth will talk a little bit about that, but it takes us from hundreds of thousands of dollars to a contribution of just around $27,000, which will be a large fiscal impact to the district if we get that grant awarded to us. We have gone through with a sharp pencil, and we are reevaluating all of our capital investments. So thanks to Jacksonville's generosity of an unbelievable reserve rescue that is unbelievably great shape, we have decided we are not going to pursue purchasing another $400,000 ambulance. We're going to keep that as our reserve and run that as a reserve unit. Our folks that have to use it love that unit, so it's good, and it's matching our district well and serving our community well. Thanks again to Jacksonville for making that generous donation. A big item and is going to be revamping of our certificate of public convenience and need, which allows us to do EMS transport. So right now, our need for EMS transport on the island in the district has been dramatically lessened because we don't have the population that we typically have. So we've been working with the Division of Public Safety and our partners with Lee County to say, look, labor costs are what our labor costs are. This is a labor-intensive industry that we're in, but it also represents the biggest pot of money in the budget. And we certainly want to provide security and stability to our employees. So we had proposed, and the county is open to how many rescues we run every day in our community based on the documented needs. So we have taken what's a nationally accepted standard, our unit utilization time from our standards to cover, and we are proposing to the county that when our unit utilization for a rescue is at 25% or lower, the district can operate one rescue. When it goes over a need of 25%, then we will staff 2 rescues. What that does is that impacts our overtime expenditure, and it allows us to have a better staffing model that will lessen the labor costs without directly impacting employees of the district in terms of wages or benefits or anything of that nature. And it provides us some savings. And what I like about it particularly is in public safety, everything is about analytics. This is analytic driven. This is data driven. We will be monitoring the needs of the community every 2 weeks, sending a report to the Division of Public Safety, and making our staffing and our apparatus decisions based on the data and what we are seeing in the community.
Have you already run that data so far?
Yes, we have run that data so far, and it's a pretty dramatic decrease from where we should be this time of year with season to where we are.
Are we less than 25%?
Yes, we are.
So Chief, when we're down to 1 rescue, we're still getting assistance from Iona and other agencies in the immediate vicinity to respond.
Yes, our automatic aids with fire apparatus are still in place, and when that 1 rescue is out, right now, if both our rescues are out and there's another emergency medical call, Lee County EMS comes in and provides that transport. And of course, all of our fire apparatus are paramedic staff, paramedic equipped. So you're getting that immediate advanced care for high acuity calls, and you're still getting transport to the hospital. We have a continuum of care between us, Lehigh, and EMS. So it's really what's the patch on the side of the unit say. So you're still getting the same level of quality provider, same training, same protocols, same capabilities. It's just we're trying to lessen the fiscal impacts for providing that service to the community.
So I could be wrong, but I speculate what the difference here is going to be the time of transportation.
That's
In other words,
correct.
you're going to get the paramedic service from our unit
Yes.
who would respond in a fire engine or a fire truck, and then when the actual transportation device gets there, the ambulance.
Yes,
That could be a little longer.
it could be a little bit longer. Yes. Any other questions related to that?
Yes, sir. On the mutual aid side, how's the demand for our services to surrounding communities been?
Right now, to be frank and to be honest with you, with the loss of Station 31 and relocating that rescue to our border, a majority of our emergency medical service calls are providing mutual aid outside of the district. Once that temporary facility is up and running and we can relocate what would be our one rescue to the center core of the island, even if this passes the COPCN, we probably won't do the reduction into looking at this data until we have that central facility up and running and we can relocate that unit to the central core of our district, just for availability, because the demand for mutual aid outside of the district is pretty high.
Have their call volumes increased, or are they comparable?
I can't speak to that. I haven't looked at their data.
Just curious. Thank you.
That being the case, Chief, sort of on another matter a little, when do you anticipate us being able to relocate that?
I was hoping in March, but I'm probably thinking April, would you say, Scott, for the temporary facility? Yeah, there's been some issues that have come up that Chief Worth caught, so thank you to Chief Worth for his diligence. So, any other questions related to that, Commissioners?
Commissioner Fleming, anything?
No, nothing.
So, and then finally, we've made the decision that we're freezing 10 open positions in operations, which represent about $1.2 million, which is a savings. We had already been at an ideal model with 2 engines and 2 rescues and a BC. Now we're saying, okay, right now, until we know what the future is going to hold for us, we're going to freeze those 10 positions, because the last thing we want to do is hire some young firefighters and have them turn down a job to turn around and lay anybody off, and that's not our goal. So future considerations, again, our organizational infrastructure is weakened, property devaluation, the compounding effects of tax rebates and the property devaluation as we discussed. We also, in 2024, we will need to plan in January. We will have a senior staff member who is critical to our operation. I won't disclose which one at this point, because I didn't seek their permission, but we will be losing a critical senior staff person, and we as a district are going to have to critically evaluate that role, because I doubt I will find a like-for-like replacement with the same level of dedication and work ethic. You just don't get those qualities in the workforce anymore. And Colleen is smiling over there, because Colleen and I have been studying the workforce trends and workforce dynamics for the last year, and that is something we are going to critically have to evaluate, because in this position we cannot afford to have turnover frequently. It's going to have to be, we're going to have to provide an ideal working condition. So that is on my radar and is of great concern to me. And then right now, based on all of this data, this is what it comes down to, is our internal projections going into 23, 24 with the compounding tax relief, cost of services, potential property devaluation, making an assumption of 25% devaluation, we're looking at a potential budget deficit next year of $3.8 million with all things remaining the same. So that's not a doom and gloom message. That is our projections based on the best available data we have to us at this time. Again, we're expecting soft numbers very close to June 1st. This is not going to give us a lot of time to make difficult decisions right now, besides the actions I have taken, consulting closely with Jane. My philosophy at this point is every cent I save in this budget year out of the tax disbursements we get that I can carry forward is also going to help us blunt if we have a $3.8 million or more budget deficit next year. That's why looking critically at how every dollar, every cent is being spent in the organization and limiting capital infrastructure at this time And the message to our folks is, you may not have the newest and shiniest or the best and brightest, and we may have to take care of stuff for a little bit longer, but security and stability is what's important to all of us. And we've had a lot of discussions in this forum. Security and stability for our employees is number one. So with all that said, these are my closing remarks to all of you. Our recovery and our future is optimistic. We are not the only community that has gone through something like this. We will not be the last community that goes through something like this. Every community that has gone through this has had vibrant and brilliant recoveries, and they're on a bright and illustrious pathway to success. It's bright, it's vibrant, but we'll have some challenges. And the way we get through these challenges is by being one team, one district, and working together and having open, frank discussions in our public forum and engaging every decision maker and everybody with an idea how to save a dollar, bring it forward. Typically for community recovery, 3 to 5 years. I know I've been saying this for a long time, 3 to 5 years until we're like, we can breathe. And for all of you that live here, at least a year till you have some sense of normalcy till you get to 0 point, to where you're sitting at home and you know where to go for a cheeseburger, you can get your meds filled, and you got a grocery store that's close to you, and you got reliable utilities. And we're certainly working on that timeline. So again, to reiterate, our goal is to maintain our services to the community while providing stability and security that this fire district has a reputation of doing, and we're proud of doing it. With that concludes my presentation. Are there any questions, commissioners?
Chief, I have one. Before Ian, I'll remember those times, we were talking about moving forward with building a new fire headquarters building.
Yes.
After Ian, of course, that need hasn't vanished, may be modified in some respects. And are we eligible for some federal assistance or state assistance in moving forward with that project? Or are we just going to set that project aside now for a couple of years and come back and visit it? I just would like to have some thoughts on how that's going to go.
Well, we are right now going through the federal process with FEMA to recapture funds to replace Station 31. Now, that does not represent what we need or what the community needs or what our plans were. The way the FEMA public assistance program works is to restore the facility to what it was pre-Ian and then apply today's codes and standards to give you a total number. So right now we are at the phase of getting FEMA to agree with us in the state of Florida that what's remaining there needs to be replaced, that we've crossed the 50% threshold. We cannot rebuild because of local ordinances. We cannot rebuild what was lost there, just can't do it. So the first step is getting them to agree that we are over the 50% rule and demolish what's left. Then from there, we have to agree what the replacement fund is, and that's right around, our data says around $5.9 million to rebuild what was there at today's cost. So that's a very lengthy process. Again, taking the lead, and a great partner, Representative Montana, is taking lead on helping us request from the state appropriations for a pot of money representing about $16 million, which would be a huge help to help us build a new facility along with the federal funding. So no, the answer to your question is yes, this need's still there. Yes, there is money, and there is going to be a lot of federal money, a lot of state money. It's just a process to getting that money, dotting our I's, crossing our T's. Right now, trying to fund construction, that's kind of off of our back burners, but yes, we are aggressively looking at every funding opportunity, as well as, you know, what are our options and what does the fire district in 5 years look like? What is the community going to need in 5 years? So we're looking at a lot of different options right now.
Okay. I guess the key here is patience on our part.
Yes, patience on our part. When we talked 1 to 3 years before shovels turned to dirt before Ian, I would tell you, start thinking 5 to 7 years. Because the one thing when it comes to federal and state funding is it goes back to the old saying, the Lord giveth and the Lord taketh away. While the federal government giveth, the federal government can take it away too. So the last thing we want to do is go into a large capital project, get federal or state fundings, and 3 years down the road, we're operating in the facility, tap us on the shoulder and say, you remember this page and this 200-page document you filled out while you forgot to dot an I or cross a T. So it's imperative that we follow their processes, as cumbersome as they may be, and it's just not going to be a quick process. But yes, we're still working on
It's still out there.
It's still out there.
We have to be patient.
Yes,
Okay, very good. Thank you. I appreciate that explanation.
thank you.
Right. Commissioner Fleming, anything?
No, nothing, John.
Just one comment, Chief. Where do we stand as far as the district's assets and what we lost and what we still retain? How's that balance looking in general?
We are still working through our insurance cost recovery. We are still working through the FEMA cost recovery process. Chief Worth is working through the final touches on the donated engine. We still have a number of substantially damaged air packs equipment. Biggest thing right now is some of the facility impacts, namely our elevators in our 2 facilities. Trying to get, we're probably looking at complete replacements of both of those elevators, and those are extremely costly items. Jane has been diligent with FEMA, our insurance. The VFIS has been pretty good to work with. So we are recapturing what we can and replacing what we can. Just nothing right now is moving quick. Do you have anything to add there, Jane?
No, I think in terms of making sure that our folks are outfitted properly
Right.
and we have the equipment we need for everyday use, we're in fairly good shape between donated equipment and we've replaced some equipment already.
Thank you. Nothing else? All right, we'll go on to our next item, 8C, the Assistance to Firefighter Grant Application. Chief Worth?
Chief, you want me at the
No,
podium or good
you're
here?
right there's fine.
Okay. Commissioners, and thank you to the fire chief for allowing us to seek sources. So when the hurricane hit, the district has 27 air packs in its inventory, 54 bottles, 2 bottles for each air pack. So what we ran into when we started looking at replacing the missing and damaged packs was interoperability issues. So a little bit of background. The NFPA, National Fire Protection Association, sets the standards that all of our equipment is basically designed and built to. Our air packs were purchased in 2014 with an anticipated lifespan of 15 years and they're in the capital replacement budget for 2028 so that they're in service 2029 and we meet that 15-year window. Those standards, some of the things that drive it is the air bottles that we have to be hydrostatically tested. They hold 5,500 pounds of pressure, which is why they're glass wrapped. They're metal bottles with glass wrapped to manage that kind of pressure. So they have to be tested every so often. They have a definitive lifespan of the 15 years, as long as they're tested on proper intervals. Our air packs also have emergency breathing systems on them. What we have found out is in 2013, NFPA had set a standard on the air packs, and they do it every 5 years. They do it in 5-year cycles. 2018, a new standard came out that basically called for interoperability between all brands, so the connections for the emergency breathing systems for one brand is the same for the other brand, so that when we're all working on an emergency scene, everything works together. What we have encountered is to replace our missing or damaged air packs, we would have to build them to the old 2013 standard, which means they would not be NFPA compliant. They would be NIOSH compliant. They would work like our current air packs work. They would be interoperable with our current air packs, but we would be purchasing equipment that we, in essence, would sunset in 2028. So it didn't seem very feasible. So with the approval of the chief and Jane, we went ahead and we put in for a grant through the Assistance from Firefighter Grant, which is a federal program provided by FEMA for fire departments to purchase equipment and facilities and things of that nature. So we have put in for all 27 air packs and 54 bottles. And if that comes through, all of our air packs will then meet the new 2023 standards, which are going to go into effect pretty soon. And we will then be on a new 15-year cycle, and that'll take us out to 2038. So that's where we stand with the air packs. The interoperability issues with the emergency breathing systems between the old and the new is really what kind of drove this. So we're hoping that comes through. Like the chief had said in his presentation, I want to thank the local 1826 and the IAFF who have people who help with grant writing, helped us with our narratives and preparing our applications, and are helping us, advocating for us as the application goes through its review process. The other piece of the grant that we're applying for is for incident management training. And while the chief that was already focused on this is one of his goals, or our goals, we're hoping to be able to expand that and provide it not only to our current supervisors and incident managers, but those who are working towards it in the future. So we're using a system that the district has already employed, and it's called the Blue Card system. It's a tried and proven system of incident management that we want to put all of our people through. So if the ambulances, we're running 2 ambulances and 2 fire engines, there's a good chance the ambulance could show up first. If those firefighters understand what the incident manager needs to happen, better chance that the incident will see a successful outcome. If those first units are doing the things that they know the incident manager would be asking for them to do when they arrive. So if we're successful in receiving that will put all of our folks through this incident management training, and it will help them understand the why of how an incident is run and give them a bigger global picture. And also it goes to developing them for their future roles as they come up in the organization.
Thank you, Chief.
Thank you.
Chief, on the incident management side, would folks have to go away for training, or would we bring an instructor in-house to handle all the crews?
So part of the training package that we're doing is looking to develop all of our chief officers. So in the grant package, we have licenses for all the users, but we're also trying to create 8 in-house, all of our chief officers, and turn them into instructors. Okay. So that a lot of the work is going to happen in-house. They do offer some services occasionally around the country where Blue Card will come in and do in-house training, but we're looking to set up the system and be able to provide that in a more convenient way rather than trying to send people somewhere remote.
And what's the scope on the training? Is that a 40-hour, 80-hour?
It's
About 160 hours.
Okay. Right. Yeah, you're going to be about 80 to 100 hours of
Online.
working through online and classroom and online scenario stuff, and then additional in-person live scenario training. And then the instructors, I think it jumps up another 40 to 60 hours on top of the user level training.
Is there an extra cost for the firefighters to those matters? Is it done during their normal shift? The training?
It would be done on shift. Yeah. We do have some included in the grant package. We do have some overtime built in, but that's if we need to get the instructors off to Blue Card. They might do some remote training so that they're receiving it directly from the people who do Blue Card all the time. But then the intent is that our instructors, our internal instructors, then are able to bring it back and get our people trained up while they're on duty.
Commissioner Fleming, anything?
No.
This is a grant we have applied for but not yet received.
We have not yet received it. That's correct. That's correct. So on these grants, they give guidance, and the grants have different priority funding. Both of these items sit in the highest priority funding. So they have a fairly good chance of being successful.
We're optimistic.
So,
Thank you.
thank you.
All right, nothing further on that. We're on to the fire chief remarks.
Thank you again, Commissioners. Thank you, Chief Worth, for giving us that overview. Couple things on the Blue Card system. About 5 years ago, I went through the system. I think our people are going to find this very enjoyable because it gets them into what they do in a virtual environment. So they're going to be able to literally sit at home and go through some scenarios. I went through it. Chief Kraus recently went through it when he got promoted to Assistant Fire Chief. It's going to really make a difference, and I think it's going to be quality training that our people are really going to enjoy, and I'm really hoping that we come through and we get that grant funding. One thing I wanted to add is labor relations. Right now, we're at a point where we have an extremely positive, probably one of the most positive since I've been here, labor management relations with our two DVPs, as well as our local. The vice president of Local 1826 actually came to our office, sat down and said, look, I called Washington, D.C., the international office. They are going to help. They provided us some assistance and guidance with putting these grants together, and they're going to hand walk our grant applications with our story to the appropriate people to stack the deck in our favor. So that partnership is going really well. Kudos to all of you and the decisions you allowed me to make with some of the reorganizations very early. Having a dedicated human resource person, and I don't want to put her on the spot, but part of Colleen's job is labor relations, and just this morning having this discussions, talking with our DVPs, positive comments of having somebody who isn't the fire chief or a chief officer available to talk issues out really goes a long way in fostering a positive labor relations. So thank you for allowing me to make that decision. It is paying dividends, and thank you to Colleen for her work. Want to just put it on your radar. It's probably a couple of years out, but the state of the district, the state of our response capability, just the very fact of our training, we should anticipate at some point an ISO reclassification. We probably will not retain our Class 2 designation. That's okay. ISO doesn't dramatically impact insurance like it did 30 years ago, but we should anticipate it. It's common with every community that goes through something like this. You lose capacity, you lose capability, but we will get it back someday. Just want to put that on your radar that is a possibility. Will it happen? No. Will it happen tomorrow? No. But is it a possibility? Yes, it is a possibility. Want to reassure all of you and our community, next month, my staff and I, we will be working together along with our battalion chiefs and our company officers in revisions to our hurricane plan. We will be ready. We may be limping, but we will be ready, and we will be ready to stand a line and protect this community once again and service them if we're threatened. Hopefully we're not. But we will be ready, and we'll be ready to serve. Our people are committed and focused, and we're going to make some tweaks, but we are planning, and we will be ready for the next Atlantic hurricane season. We've seen a trend, as you guys could see, the high-end vehicles and people out measuring lots and taking pictures of everything. We are receiving a lot of unsolicited offers on Station 31 and that property. We have not made any decisions on that property. We still are going through a FEMA process, but there has been a lot of interest and a lot of unsolicited offers. We're not responding to those offers because we have not made a decision on what the future of that property looks like for the district. Finally, I want to remind all of you, as well as our members in the community, we've all went through something traumatic. So the importance of mental health and reaching out to get somebody if you're struggling. Don't struggle alone. Don't be alone. If you're struggling, reach out to a friend, a neighbor, anyone. talk to somebody, reach out to the mental health resources out in the community. It's imperative. This is still relatively fresh. It's scabbing over, but there are people who are struggling with it and struggling with the emotions and seeing our community in the shape that it's in. We're recovering. The future is bright, but just don't struggle alone. If you need help, anybody out there, you even need a hug, give me a call. I'm right on Voorhees. I'll give you a hug. I'm here. You know, we're here. If you're really in a bad place, stop by a fire station. We'll point you in the right direction. So just want to put that message out to the community and to all of us. Take care of yourself. Fill your heart. The future is bright. We will get through this. That's all I have, sir.
Thank you. Commissioner Fleming, closing remarks?
Yeah, doing it by phone is not the best way to go, but you know, at least I was able to hear what's going on. Thank you, Chief, for all the updates. Keep up the good job. Keep up the good work.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Jim?
I just wanted to relay that we got an opportunity to go to the lights parade and represent Fort Myers Beach Fire District. We had an engine, ladder truck in that parade, and I found it remarkable, really, the support that the regional community had for Fort Myers Beach. It was thousands of smiling faces along that parade route, and so many cheers for Fort Myers Beach. I wasn't expecting it. And so it was very rewarding to see, and it's good to know that we have a great regional community here, not just the beach community, but the regional community. It's a great regional community, and it was helpful for me personally to go, and I think it reflects the support we all have as we go through rebuild of the beach, because the beach means a lot to the region as well as a whole. So. And I've seen a lot of people down on the beach now coming to visit and occasionally partake off the beach. And I know there's a strong desire and interest to get the beach back. So anyhow, thank you for everything.
Great.
You know, after a while working with the senior staff and your administrative staff, you kind of get used to the level at which they work. But hearing your updates on that, I'm just so pleased and so happy that you have hired the crew that you have. When you talk about how hard they're working, the successes they're having, I realize everyone that's in this room and the others that are not, just they're working at such a high level in this situation, and I just amazed by the quality of support that they give each other and you give them. So I just want to thank all of you. That's it.
I bear both your remarks. I mean, the district has been just outstanding through this whole process in the last almost 5 months now. We were outstanding before. I always had that feeling. But when you put an organization under the stress that we're still under in some fashion, but the stress of the storm and the response, and now we're moving into recovery and recouping, thanks to our finance director's hard work and all her support. It's just, it makes me feel comfortable. As stressed as our financial situation is, I'm comfortable knowing that we're doing everything possible for the betterment of the community to be as fiscally responsible as we can be. And it's just, it makes our job extremely easy compared to what I see in other government bodies. Like Jim said, with the parade on Saturday, thoroughly enjoyed it. It was a great time. I never realized that our fire chief really loves that horn as much as he does. We may have to requisition a new one. I'm sure it's got some wear and tear on it. And somebody else in the room also got some practice on the horn and the sirens. So, it was a lot of fun. I always feel a little bit guilty in parades, as much as I love seeing the community's response, whether it be the beach or this instance, the whole area, because they love the district so much, and that's a direct reflection of not us, but all of you and the guys and gals in the houses every day doing their job. They know what we've been through. They know how difficult it was, and they truly appreciate it. And that was very evident Saturday night. It was heartwarming. Beyond that, great meeting. Thanks again to everybody for your hard work, support, and getting our data together and the numbers. And it's another thing to do to inform us on top of your regular jobs, and we certainly appreciate it. And if nobody has anything else, we'll adjourn.